Hey, what's up, Brew Crew? Clay here with Beer City Board Games. It's been a little bit. We took a little time off after Gen Con, and August was a busy month for us, both in terms of our personal lives and in terms of gaming. But we played 16 new games to us in August, and we even had the chance to play some of my favorite games of all time. So let's get started with this month's recap. Okay, let's start off with some of the new games that I played this month. First up is Wild Tiled West. This is a new game from Paul Dennen and Direwolf. This is a tile-laying polyomino game with an interesting dice selection mechanism, which will determine which tiles will be available in a round. Now, I'll be honest, I was beginning to tire a little bit of the whole polyomino tile-laying thing, but this one felt different from any that I had played before, and we ended up enjoying it so much that we went right to the Direwolf booth and ended up buying it. Next up, we've got Thunder Road Vendetta by Restoration Games. This was a very fun, very chaotic racing game. It had a very Mad Max feel, and I loved that you had multiple different vehicles to choose from. Some were faster, while some were better at running people off the road. And then you had your helicopter if you just wanted to blow someone up. This game was a lot of fun to play, and I'm really looking forward to playing it again with a higher player count for even more craziness. Then we have Blind Business from DeVere. This is a game with a really cool art style, weird mechanisms, and an even weirder theme. Apparently there is a 10-foot tall donkey piñata, and the mayor of the town has invited everyone to try to break it open. The theme of this one really isn't important. It's basically a set collection game. The trick is that you don't know which cards you have in your hand. You can look at the beginning of the game, but while playing, you will have your cards all facing out towards your opponents. They'll request cards from your hand, and you can either give them up for your opponent to place in front of themselves, or you can refuse, playing the card face up in front of you. This is one that I think has an interesting idea, but I'll definitely need to play it more before I figure out if it's a game that I actually like. We got a chance to play Dawn. This is a co-op with a trader-style game from Green Meadow Games. Everyone is secretly playing cards to help construct village cards in order to score prosperity points. But players can also choose to hoard resources. And if you hoard enough resources, you become a scoundrel, and your win condition will change. This is a game that has a really nice production with the exception of the cards. But this is another game where I think I need to play it quite a few more times to make a decision. In our game, it was pretty easy to see the writing on the wall. We knew right away that we were not going to win by prosperity points. And at that point, everyone decided to be a scoundrel, and it just became who could hoard the most resources. While I had a lot of fun playing it, I attribute that more to who I was playing it with, more so than the game itself. I am hoping to find time to play this one a few more times before putting out my review. We played Archaeo Society from Space Cowboys, which is an iteration on the game Ethnos. Although instead of being an area control game, this game has you moving up tracks. There are a lot of things about this game that I really like, and even some things that I preferred over Ethnos. At the end of the day, though, I didn't feel it was different enough for me to justify owning both. But if you don't already own Ethnos and you want something similar, Archaeo Society would be a good option. And speaking of Ethnos iterations, we also played a game called Waddle Waddle while at Gen Con. This game is going to be crowdfunded soon, and it has a very interesting story behind it. This game is all about penguin conservation, and has you collecting different species of penguins to place nests out on different areas of the Antarctic. All of the penguin photos used in this game were taken by the designer and his friend when they took a cruise to the Antarctic. He did tell me that his friend has since passed away. The game itself is very good, and definitely took inspiration from Ethnos. Where Archeo Society didn't feel different enough to own both, I would definitely consider backing Waddle Waddle, although I will admit I'm not really a fan of the name. We also played Point City, although we didn't have time to get through a full game of it in our time in the BGG Hot Games room, because we were kind of right up against our time limit. But I really like the simplicity of Point Salad, but Point City takes this concept and turns it up a bit. It still has you drafting cards, but now you will be building an engine as well. You're going to gather resources to run your buildings and gain points. I can't wait to get a full game of this in soon. Now, we really enjoy Cascadia here, and we had a chance to play the Cascadia Landmark expansion. This expansion includes landmark tokens and cards, which provide some additional end game scoring bonuses, as well as new terrain tiles and wildlife cards. I really like the addition of the landmarks, and this is something I would always include in my game of Cascadia. We were not, however, big fans of the additional wildlife cards. We felt that it took what should be an accessible game for everyone and overcomplicated it. If you're looking to make Cascadia more complex, these cards will definitely do that, but if I'm looking for a complex game, Cascadia is not the game I'm going to be reaching for. Now, our friends from Iowa taught us Oros. This was a game with a really interesting theme. You play as a demigod, working to build up islands as they emerge from the ocean. You'll be creating and erupting volcanoes, shifting the land around to create mountains on which you will build your temples. The game looks very beautiful and uses a slide puzzle mechanism that I haven't seen used in too many games. We also played Make the Difference from Oink Games. This takes inspiration from the Spot the Difference style puzzles, except you will be the one creating the differences in the pictures provided and hoping to hide them from your opponents. You'll get extra points for bigger changes that go unnoticed. This was a game that I kind of bounced off of, and I'm not exactly sure why. It's a clever concept, but unfortunately I didn't end up enjoying my play of it. We did have an opportunity to play the new Granja Deluxe Master Set. Granja has been one of my favorite games for a long time now, and this new Deluxe Master Set is just gorgeous. The cover is striking, the board is more vibrant, and the dual layered player boards make tucking your cards into their slots super easy. The Ladies of Granja expansion module is really great as well, which gives each player a unique ability that they can use during the game. I enjoyed my last game of this so much that there's a chance it could make a run at Brass Birmingham as my new favorite game. Stay tuned. We also played another one of my favorite games, and that's Dungeon Pets from CGE. This game has a super cute, super charming theme where you are a family of imps raising monsters for different dungeon lords. The very cute art disguises a pretty heavy game though. There are a lot of interwoven mechanisms in this game, like bidding, worker placement, and hand management. One of the coolest things about this game though are the monster tokens themselves, which have wheels attached to the back of them, which will show what their needs will be in the current round as well as upcoming rounds. Now, this was our first time playing with the Dark Alleys expansion, and while I didn't really find the Dark Alley board all that interesting, the additional pets alone made it worth trying. We played the very simple, very quick game Kobayakawa. This is a bidding and bluffing game with very few rules. Everyone is dealt a card, then the top card on the deck is flipped over. On your turn, you'll either draw a new card into your hand and discard one of your two cards, or you'll flip over the next card and place it on top of the card that is already on the table. And once everyone has taken a turn, then everyone will bid on whether or not they believe they have the highest number card. The twist here, though, is whoever has the lowest value card will get to add it to the number on the card on the table. This game was fun and fast, and I think it works really well in social situations. Euphoria from Stonemaier Games has made it to the table again this month. I think this is an underrated game, and I love the tongue-in-cheek nature of the game, especially when it comes to the location names. It has a dystopian theme with dice worker placement mechanisms, but you have to be careful because if any of your workers get too smart, they will run away. I love dice worker placement to begin with, but this is such a clever integration of theme and mechanics. I'd love to see this one come back in print someday. Earlier in this video, I talked about Make a Difference, which was an Oink game that just wasn't for me. Well, an Oink game that I really ended up enjoying is Tiger and Dragon. Players are going to take turns placing big chunky tiles on their player boards to either attack or defend. Now, successfully defending will allow you to make an attack yourself, playing another tile, and you are trying to be the first one to place all of your tiles. You do this over multiple rounds, scoring points at the end of each round if you have won that round. But the points you get will be determined by which arena is chosen at the beginning of the game, usually varying the amount of points based on the last tile played during the round. This game is pretty abstract, but the challenge of reading your opponent to determine which tiles they still have left in their hand makes for a really fun back and forth. I've only just recently begun trying button-shy games, and up until August we had only tried Sprawlopolis and Tussie Mussy. But we were able to pick up Circle the Wagons at Gen Con and give it a try, and just like Sprawlopolis, I was surprised at how much they did with so little. Like in Sprawlopolis, cards in Circle the Wagons are double-sided. One side shows 4 plots of land with different terrain types, and the other side shows different scoring objectives. You'll take turns drafting cards and placing them into your landscape, and at the end of the game you'll score points for your largest landscape area, as well as the objectives on the backs of the 3 cards set aside at the beginning of the game. Such a clever, streamlined way to get a lot of gameplay out of very few cards. Tatari is a game from Rainer Knizia that I had not heard of until I watched Evan Diesel's channel and entered his giveaway. This game has a horror theme where you are trying to get rid of all of your cursed Japanese dolls. You're going to do this by rolling dice and pushing your luck. You have to be careful though, or else the dolls might come back. It's a light, fun dice game with a cool theme and creepy aesthetic. We really enjoyed it. If you've watched my channel for a while now, you know that I tend to love games with multi-use cards. Forest Shuffle from Lookout Games is the newest game that we've picked up that uses this mechanism. Players are going to create their forest by playing tree cards, and then on each tree card they can play cards either to the top, bottom, left, or right to add other plants or animals that will each score points based on the tableau of cards that you have in front of you. This was a very solid game with plenty to think about, not to mention really beautiful art. Finally, the last game that I wanted to talk about in this August recap is Merchant's Cove. This was a game that we picked up at Gen Con as well, and had a chance to play around the end of August. Now, the core game of this is pretty simple. Create different colored goods to sell to customers of the corresponding color. The more customers of that color, the more points you'll score. The hook here is that every player takes on the role of a character that plays very differently from one another. For example, in our game, Jen played as the alchemist, who played a potion explosion style game to create her potions, whereas my character was the dragon rancher, who had sort of a route building puzzle to bring dragons to market, and could also grow mega dragons for even bigger point payouts. I'm curious to see how the rest of the characters play, but I will say that I really enjoyed the one play of this game that we've had so far. All right, that's it for the August recap. Now, this is not a fully comprehensive list of every game that we played in August, but it's at least an overview of some of the highlights. Let me know in the comments below if you've played any of these games, and if so, what were your thoughts on them? And until next time, let's get another round for the table.